It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate, oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And this week, we're reviewing the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy ending. Mike, three of them done. Volume 3, not one done, 3 and done, and we're going to talk about it. Star Wars Day lands with a whimper, going to be honest. Going to talk about it a little bit here, because May the 4th be with you. Across the Spider-Verse could set a Hollywood record, which was a huge, big news to me. I didn't know this was going to do it. And more.
Yeah, we're in it now. I was saying on our Guardians of the Galaxy review, it feels like we're kind of in the unofficial / official summer movie season in a way. I think probably the biggest one coming up next that we probably won't talk about directly is Fast X. I think a lot of people are going to be going to the theaters to see that one.
Fast X and Little Mermaid. I always get which weekends those are coming out, but Little Mermaid's tracking to make a lot of money as well. Those Disney live action ones always do. They're not in our wheelhouse, but they always make a lot of money. A lot of kids go and see those.
Not surprised there at all. Yeah, but I feel like another thing that comes along with the summer too is, like we like to talk about, Chris, snacks. There's a lot of new snacks getting released between the spring and the summer. And I got to try 3 of them this weekend. There's a brand new Dorito out there. It's a hot mustard Dorito.
I will admit, my favorite dipping sauce for McDonald's nuggets is hot mustard, Mike. So like this was like right up my alley when you told me about this one.
Yeah, you can't miss the bag. It's giant. It's yellow. I found them today at a 7-Eleven, a little bag. And you take a bite into it and you're like, yeah, this is a Dorito covered in hot mustard for sure. So if that's something up your alley, you're getting exactly what you're asking for sure. I was kind of hoping there might be a little bit more of a Dorito like X factor to it, right? You know, when I eat a nacho cheese Dorito, I don't feel like I'm eating nacho cheese. I feel like I'm eating a very specific Dorito engineered flavor. But still ultimately pretty good. There's a new Ruffle out, or I think it's a wavy actually. It's a wavy chip, Cuban sandwich. And that was actually really good. Like, Cuban sandwiches have very specific flavor notes that I feel like you can hit in a chip pretty well. You kind of got the Swiss cheese, you got the mustard, you got the pickle, and they're actually really, really good. I don't know if I would,
Would you put them on a Cuban sandwich? Is that what they're for?
That'd be fun. I don't know if I'd get them as kind of like a weekly driver, right? I couldn't go to the grocery store and eat a bag every week, but I'm definitely going to finish the bag that I have pretty good. And then something that you've been able to pick up already that I finally got was the new Rocket Pop Mountain Dew.
It's called Summer Freeze. Mountain Dew Summer Freeze, for those who don't know. And I feel bad for everybody because it's blue like half of the other Mountain Dew colors out there. Like Voltage and the Shark Bite one are all blue, and so is this one, and they all look the same when you like are trying to find them in a cooler.
And like if you envision a Rocket Pop popsicle in your head when you're drinking it, it tastes exactly like it.
It's like identical to like they're like a splash of Mountain Dew, but mostly Rocket Pop flavoring in there. It comes in regular and zero, by the way, for people who don't know.
And also, I was gonna ask you. It's a bit of a chain, but I don't know exactly where they've proliferated across the United States. But there's a chain called Dave's Hot Chicken, which is out in the world. I don't know if you've seen one in your parts just yet.
I don't know. I just did a quick Google. The closest one's about an hour away in Lexington.
Gotcha. We've had a couple of them out here in LA for a while now. I don't even really know where they originated, but it's a hot chicken place, and we finally got one kind of like across the street from where I am. So I was like, okay, it's definitely in the convenience radius now. So I'm gonna go give it a shot, and that was pretty good. They make like hot chicken sandwiches, but they make them out of like tenders, so they don't really call it a sandwich. They call it a slider. So I thought that actually was kind of cool. So like you kind of like order like 2 sliders and fries, but that was pretty good. So ultimately, it's been a very hedonistic, calorie, carb driven weekend for me, and it's been very delicious.
East Hollywood, by the way, for Dave's Hot Chicken.
Oh, okay.
They set up shop in a parking lot to sell theirs first. So that's great. Yeah, we don't have that here. I've been on the other side of Mike's thing. I've actually, because most people may have noticed, I had to leave early for work next week to North Carolina. I had a flat tire like 3 hours into my journey to North Carolina from my little SUV. But what was really cool is, despite everything kind of going on, not in my favor, I was able to get to an airport and swap out the rental. The only rental I was able to get was a Dodge Challenger, Mike. So I got to ride in a sports car for the rest of my trip in North Carolina and back. And it's really fun because I was the slowest car on the highway because I was 100% sure I would get pulled over in that thing if I was not careful, because they are fantastic. What I didn't know, it only took one tank of gas to get me from on a 7-hour trip. I actually did not have to stop and fill up for gas once when I filled it up when I left, which was great. I didn't think a sports car would get that kind of mileage, if I'm going to be completely honest, on the interstate.
Well, when you're going super slow and not cranking the throttle, you could probably get a little bit more MPGs out of that.
Absolutely. And then for next week, I'm going to try to record the show in my new AR glasses that I told Mike about, and he was waxing poetic about on the Guardians podcast. So.
Yeah, Chris is always coming across some sort of random bit of technology that I have to say, not in your defense, Chris, I never hear about again. I feel like I'll hear about these glasses next week, and then they'll never pop up in conversation again.
The thing is, I hate like if someone doesn't show interest right away, or like doesn't like ask questions. Like, I don't want to bog people down with everything because I have a lot of cool stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to bother people about it.
You heard it here, folks. Chris has a lot of cool stuff.
I do have a lot of cool stuff, self-admittingly. I've got the my Steam Deck, my VR headset, and these AR glasses coming in. I'm very excited to do that. But this week, also, very important, two things, Mike. One, May the 4th, Star Wars Day, and the new Star Wars shorts came out on Disney+, but nothing else really came out this week, right? Like, Jedi Survivor dropped the week before, and I've been playing that game. Just continuously gets better, by the way, for those who are interested. You just get more abilities. It just opens up the world. It's really fun. The Visions Volume 2 was on Disney+, but nothing really else kind of came out for Star Wars. And for me, it was kind of sad. Like, no announcements, no...
May the 4th is such a weird holiday. Like, it created just out of the pure fact that it kind of sounds like something else, verbally, like nothing to do with the date, right? It just fourth just sounds like force, which is just hilarious to build a whole holiday just around that. Because does this make any sense in any other language? No, absolutely not, because they probably don't sound the same, I would just assume. And then they're also at the beck and call of just like releases of stuff. Like, historically, Star Wars stuff has almost exclusively come out in the winter holiday months of stuff, so you're never really going to get anything there. Maybe possibly a trailer for something could be within the window. And then Star Wars Celebration had happened already, a few weeks back. So it's like, well, what's left to market? What's left to promote?
Yeah, we put stuff on sale.
There's usually like some sort of like sizzle, like some sort of trailer that's just kind of like wrapping up things. But yeah, the only thing new was really that Visions, and we're being a little trepidatious about that, right? We didn't have the best time with Volume 1, but we'll try Volume 2.
I would love to watch Volume 2. I think Volume 2 has more studios I recognize, and like that visually distinction that we talked about. I just haven't had time to sit down and watch it because I really want to make sure we focus on stuff we're watching. And the other part of this is in my part of the world, my neck of the world, and listeners familiar with this, is the Kentucky Derby was yesterday, Mike. The first weekend in May is the Kentucky Derby.
I'm only laughing because the wife and I were in the car yesterday, and on the radio, some host said, "Oh, the most expensive fluid on the planet is from prized racing horses," and I'll just let you all out there assume what that fluid is. So I was like, "Oh yeah,
urine."
Reminded me, the Kentucky Derby is happening.
Yeah. So the Kentucky Derby was yesterday. In sad news, like a lot of horses like randomly passed away this week on the track. I'm like, oh, this is not looking good for horse racing.
Yeah, that's not good.
But a horse who I think wasn't necessarily scheduled to win, but like the favorite scratched early on in the week, and so everything was kind of up in the air. So congratulations to a horse. I think it's called Mage, or something like that. Something to do with wizards. Won. So Yeah, so that was this week. Literally, our city shuts down for like 3 days. Like, it's horrible here, and like if you ever have to like travel through Kentucky at this time of year, because we have May the 4th. It would have been Cinco de Mayo, which isn't really a Mexican holiday for anyone interested. That's just something we do here, and the Kentucky Derby all 3 days in a row, Mike. It was just wild, everything going on. So. Glad to be here. But yesterday, and after everything had calmed down, my wife and I got to sit down and finally catch up on the movie Renfield, the Nicolas Cage as Dracula movie. And if you want Nicolas Cage as Dracula, you're going to get a little bit of it in this movie, but because it's not the title of the film, it's called Renfield, you get a lot more of Renfield in this movie than you thought it would. It's fun. It's like one of those like, hey, I'm glad I didn't pay to watch this. I literally threw some popcorn in the microwave. Had a drink and watched this, and literally, if you don't take it serious, it's a lot of fun. It's like hyper violent, right? Like, you've seen the trailers, right? When Renfield eats a bug, he gets his like power. So he's like, he cuts someone's arms off with a dinner plate in a diner because he throws it so hard. Like, and then there's like obviously the fake CGI blood splattering everywhere. So it's crazy. Nick Cage is just chewing his scenery as Dracula, right, from start to finish, but he's not in it as much as I wish he was. I was really hoping more for like Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance, Nick Cage, like where he's like completely unhinged, but he was fine. He's not in it as much as the trailers lead you to believe. At the end of the day, and then also Awkwafina. I did not know she was in this movie. She is the other, I guess, lead alongside Nicholas Hoult, who played Beast in the X-Men movie. So those are the two main characters, and it's pretty interesting to watch that. And what's the guy who voiced Sonic the Hedgehog?
I can't think of his name. Nick Schwartzman? Is that what it is?
No, it's not Nick Schwartzman. It's Ben something. He's in Parks and Rec.
I can't think of his
name. Either way, he's in it. Actually, I didn't know he was in it. He plays a character in this. I think his name's like Tony Lobo or something weird like that. So if you're a big character of it's Ben Schwartzman, I think is what it is. He's in it. It's pretty fun. So I would say rent this movie. Do not buy it. Do not own it. But it is a very fun watch if you're like looking for something like, just dumbly popcorn watch a movie on an evening to kill some time. It's an hour and a half long. Perfect length, right, for something like that. And then I didn't put it in here, but we had a family gathering today to celebrate several birthdays, Mother's Day, wrap it all up in one hot like family gathering, right? Like perfect, storm for that. Awesome. We sat down, my family. I got them to watch most of them to watch Dungeons and Dragons again.
Hey,
because I watched it in theaters. Like, is it a good movie? I'm like, I had a really good time with it. So they put it on, and there is actually I was mentioning earlier a long take in this movie. I forgot, which is really cool because it involves the druid, and the druid can change into different animals. So like literally, it starts as one animal, and there's like multiple changes as they're like tracking this person through the city to different animals, and it's really cool. So if you've not caught Dungeons and Dragons. Honor Among Thieves, I highly recommend it yet again after getting my family to watch it earlier today. So good time with that. But you finally got to dive into one of my favorite games of last year, Mike, video games, and I'm very excited to hear what you thought of.
I randomly came across a free copy of Midnight Suns, and I only put it in the show notes here because I feel like I played just enough of it to get a feel for the gameplay style of it. And it's always a weird bargain, right, when you're trying to sell like a high-end video game where the combat is based on some sort of like strategy mechanic, right? So, like this is basically a deck building game for the most part, which is strange because I felt like the marketing didn't do it justice almost in a way of the very first look that we got of this game were these super high polished like cinematic cutscenes.
The cutscenes only.
Man, this looks freaking amazing. But then when you actually get into the game, the graphics kind of look like a high-end mobile game for the most part, and then it's like this card-based game, and like this really just feels like a game that probably should have been on a phone for the most part. But I was starting to get into the mechanic a little bit for sure. I kind of like the idea of like not only are you using cards, but you also need to strategically move your players around the kind of battle area, and you can use objects within that as almost like a free turn in a way so you don't have to use a card. So that was interesting. But I'm still very, very early into the game, so I was kind of confused when all of a sudden you're kind of creating your own character, and then you're kind of walking around in the 3-dimensional world as some sort of like Joan of Arc type of person. And I was like, this is strange. So I don't know exactly where the game is going to go from here, but I would say so far what I'm playing is nowhere near the cinematics, but I do understand that when you're trying to sell a game, you kind of got to go all out with those.
So I would say there are thousands upon thousands of cosmetics for not only your character but the other ones too, and I think once you get out of like I didn't like the desert. The tutorials like the desert. It's not very visually appealing. Once you get into the actual like levels of the cities and like the underground, like you're gonna see where this game like really shines visually. But like you're also very early on. You haven't unlocked a lot of characters to build your teams with. I think that was really where this game to me is shining. Like I can use Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange, or like Nico, Minoru, and Robbie Reyes, right, with a car. Or you can actually have 3 heroes. You don't even have to use your character. It's really fun. You'll unlock Spider-Man, Wolverine. They've had DLC that introduced Deadpool, Venom, Storm, and Morbius as well to this world. Blade, Iron Man, Captain America, the usuals. I think it's fun once you unlock those characters. So I think stick with it, and you're going to learn a little bit more than you think it is. They do just throw you into the fire, literally and metaphorically, if you will. And you kind of learn why your character was quote unquote reawakened in the middle of this without any knowledge of what's going on. So I hope you play some more. I'm excited. This game has been really fun for me. I've really enjoyed it. I've got another friend who's like played it through 3 times. I'm like, that's a little obsessive. Wow. But like it kind of comes to life because what you don't see, you can actually, the cards you have in your deck, you unlock more cards and you can upgrade your cards too, so that will do more damage or have special abilities. So very excited to hear you play more about this, Mike, because I know coming upon a copy of something versus spending your money is a little different all around, right? So good luck with that. But let's jump into what we've both been doing this weekend. We were both able to catch up on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which dropped in theaters. So now in theaters, if you want to go see it, now's your chance to check it out. I saw it a week early at an early preview, so I've been sitting on it. I saw it again Thursday night, opening it with my regular tickets that I purchased, and a bunch of people. So that was it's great to have people. Well, you don't talk during the movie. It's great to have people there who want to see the movie as well with you, right? Like you're like, hey, if you get on your phone, I'm gonna yell at you because I know you, kind of thing. Throughout the way. But you also, I think you may have brought up on the show about the lights in the theaters. Now, did you do anything about those lights in the theaters this time?
Yeah. Weirdly enough, these 2 seats that my wife and I like to sit in our particular house in our theater house, if you will, there's like this LED running strip along kind of like these 2 steps, and just the way the angle in these 2 particular seats, the LEDs like burn into your eyes. So I brought some black electrical tape with me on Thursday, and I just covered those bad boys up. So now those seats in the theater are like perfect. And now the goal is to always get those seats every movie I go to see how long my tape holds up. I find little things like that in life hysterical to me. So
hey, look, you saw a problem and a solution, and you're not afraid to go in there and take it. So
yes, exactly.
That's fantastic. So kudos for you. Other than that, I didn't really have any memorable or story like viewing experience at the end of the day. Like the first time I didn't go to the bathroom at all, but the second time I had to go to the bathroom quite a bit. I drank way too much that second day. So thank God I saw it the first time, because I've been so mad at myself for having to go to the bathroom twice during a movie. But yeah, you wanna drop in here? Let's talk about spoiler-free review, Mike. You have a spoiler-filled. Well, we have a review that talks spoiler-free than full spoilers, but this one we're gonna talk spoiler-free only. So if you wanna jump in here, I'll let you have honors yet again on this one.
Yeah, overall, this is a great film. Great addition to the MCU. An interesting and emotional way to end some of the story arcs of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's hard to leave this film without feeling affected in some way, right? James Gunn does a really good job pulling your heartstrings through this film, and you're just waiting to see what emotional wreckage you're going to be in by the end of the film. And it's overall it's weird to say it's a good time, right? Because there's a lot of dramatic things happening in this film. But it's great to kind of be back with the Guardians again, kind of like an OG group from was it Phase 2 of Marvel, where the first Guardians come through. So yeah, it's like you have like this longer legacy of characters that have woven their way a little bit through Disney Plus. Some of the Infinity Saga, right? Infinity War, Endgame. They're also in a little bit of Thor: Love and Thunder. So they've just been around for a while. So it's nice revisiting them again in more of an official cinematic capacity. But yeah, this one, easy to recommend. Chris and I talk about it in length on our spoiler review. And the only thing left is kind of to nitpick about it, right? There are some things that possibly could have been improved, but overall, James Gunn, he knocks it out of the park like he has done in the past with the Guardians. Normally, I don't really officially rank a lot of my Marvel MCU movies. I just kind of put them into categories. So I would say this one is top tier for sure, which is, it's great. It's always good to leave a movie feeling emotionally affected. It's kind of like the main goal of a film, right? To leave feeling a little different than how you came in. So effective. I would recommend this.
Yeah, I think we both pretty much agree, right? I mean, our nitpicks may be different, but overall feeling is like this is an emotional gut punch of a film in a good way. Like you want to go to the movies, you want to be changed, you want to feel for the characters, you want to be invested in everybody and at every moment in this movie. And I think it does a great job doing that. And that's because we've been with these characters for 9 years. And, James Gunn, he's not the perfect person in the world. He does have his idiosyncrasies, his quirks. But I was glad to see he could, not necessarily set some of them aside, but, tell a story without leaning into, way too much goofiness. Well, it is silly. It is quirky, but it's not overly done. And he has really ridden that fine line here with this movie and done a great job coming out the other side. With that, and if you're a fan of the first one, if you're a fan of the second one, if you're a fan of the holiday special, absolutely recommend this wholeheartedly. We have, there are MCU movies that do deliver stakes and quality and action and visuals all at the same time, and this is one of the few. Black Panther also comes to mind, right? An emotional journey. There are, I would say, it's not. We've heard a lot of superhero fatigue. It's not. I don't think it's true. I think if you're telling a good movie in a good way, whether it's a superhero in it or it's connected to Marvel or not, it doesn't matter. This movie is a good movie throughout and does a good job. Setting up the tropes we're all used to, right? MacGuffins and ticking clocks and all this other fun stuff, but does well with characters we care about and comes out the other side that much stronger. So whether it's whether they're truly done with the Guardians or they want to continue some characters later, I'm happy either way, and I was glad to be part of this journey from start to finish. Right, really happy to see James Gunn make us care about aliens, like really one human, several aliens, and a couple CGI only characters that never really are. They're not real on screen; they're just pixels, and I think that's a true success of a film at the end of the day, Mike. So I think we both agree, huge success, right? And I think the other part of that huge success is the box office, right? This is the highest Thursday for any Guardians of the Galaxy movie on preview nights. I think it had like $17.5 million on a Thursday night, which we were both there for that. We contributed that wholeheartedly. And it knocked Mario off the number one spot for 4 weeks now. Mario was a good time as well. So, nothing against Mario, just Guardians came out strong. People were waiting for it. It's currently sitting at $282 million opening weekend. My guess is it's probably made its money back with that, or close to it, and it's the 50th highest opening weekend ever for a film, so worldwide. So, we've talked about this before with a lot of other movies coming out, Mike. Do you think this has the quote unquote proverbial legs as we get literally into the first loaded summer movie season in years?
I don't think this is going to be the movie that defines the calendar year or the summer in any way. I would say
Indiana Jones.
Possibly. I mean, this one doesn't really have so much of a unique selling proposition outside of just the fact that it's kind of the final Guardians movie. No.
It's James Gunn's last Guardians movie before he only goes full DC.
Yeah, you got to be pretty in the weeds to kind of know the specific meaning that this film has overall for the filmmaker, universe, blah, blah, blah. I would say there's a lot other bigger tentpole movies that are happening this year that probably have a little bit more on the line. So I think this movie is definitely making money. There's nothing to shake a stick at there. But I think we'll probably see bigger like impressions and engagement with like Fast X that's coming out. Spider-Verse will probably have a bigger kind of creative tale to it because it's the animation movie that kind of kicked off this new visual revolution. Indiana Jones is probably going to be the last time that maybe we see Harrison Ford in a big cinematic experience like this. He's obviously out there still acting, but this is probably going to be a big end of the chapter for him. So yeah, Guardians kind of kicking off the summer, but probably won't have as big headlines once these other films start rolling.
Yeah, I think there is diminishing returns maybe kind of going forward on this. For films, because they're literally, we looked at our calendar, we're like in the theaters doing almost 2 podcasts every week for like all of June and July. So I'm like, it's got a lot of competition, but that's not a bad thing. I mean, a lot of people will be coming out to see it now or they'll be seeing it later because a lot of people won't go opening weekend. I know people who refuse to go opening weekend, despite the fact I think Thursday showings had the strongest audience, right? They're like, hey, I want to be here early to watch this because I want to avoid spoilers, so they're not necessarily on their phones or ruin it for everybody else. But I think, to me, this movie maybe has like 2 weeks in it, right? Maybe 3 before Little Mermaid and Fast X come in and take over. Because fast movies, despite how you feel about them, they make money. They make a lot of money in ridiculous ways. And the rumors I hear about them bringing back Paul Walker's character just keep blowing my mind. I'm like, no way they're gonna bring him back in these movies, but they've technically not killed him off in the movies, Mike. So we'll see about that. But yeah, Guardians, financial success almost guaranteed. Congratulations to everyone involved. Hopefully, we get some news about the stuff at later this year. So that's gonna make me jump into our next topic, Mike. Unless you have something else you want to talk about here with Guardians. So our next topic is about Marvel as a whole, Marvel Cinematic Universe. So we should expect, this is from Industry Insiders, expect an updated Multiverse Saga update at San Diego Comic-Con. And I am absolutely ecstatic to know what this is going to be, right? Like, I have full, like, I guess, I don't know, strong feelings we're going to get a Fantastic Four cast at least by then at the latest. I think we're going to get a new release calendar wholeheartedly for everything going after 2023. I think everything's, and there's 2 reasons for this. We'll talk about one good, one bad. The good one is, and we'll talk about the bad later, is that Bob Iger's back at Disney, right? Surprisingly, at the end of last year, beginning of this year, and he has like slowed down releases, more quality, less quantity, and under Bad Bob, what's his name?
Yeah,
Chapek was like, you have to do this now, release everything immediately, kind of thing.
Yeah, Chapek was still in charge when we got that most recent dump of the Marvel schedule, which was going to be at Comic-Con last year. So now Iger's back in the mantle, and we have lots of things externally and internally kind of reconfiguring the schedule of the MCU. We haven't really officially in any capacity on the show, I think, talked about Jonathan Majors' shaky future as Kang moving forward with his kind of, I guess, personal life is maybe the best way to put it for now, of what's happening with his character. I've seen a lot of people over this weekend championing the performance of the actor, and I say this because I don't know how to pronounce his name, who played the High Evolutionary in the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, of how, like, well, maybe you expand that character and maybe minimize Kang, or, you know, I think Kang is still safely in the zone where you could recast him for sure. I think that's okay and safe to do, which is maybe not the best thing if Jonathan Majors is listening to this podcast, but I think that could possibly change the future for things a little bit. But I mean, it would be wild, right, to take a movie called Kang Dynasty off the schedule, you know?
I don't think they change. Yeah, I don't think they change their storyline they're working towards. I think they change the actor playing that role, right? Like, it's easy to say, oh, well, we have this person's a variant. We have variants that look different, right? Like all Loki had like how many variants that look different than him? One was an alligator, so like one's a girl. One was, the classical actor who played classic Loki, right? Richard whatever. So there is, they could easily do it. We've not talked about simply because nobody has officially done anything or said anything. So I'm like, this can go either way, right? Like looking at the history of Ezra Miller and how they did not redo the Flash. Literally anything's possible this time for, I think, a lot of this stuff. Loki season 2 is in the bag, right? They've already filmed it. They can't really go back and redo the whole season without delaying it. How long? A year or more, maybe? So there's a lot of factors up in the air, and I don't know which way it's going to go, and I don't think that's why we've really talked about it either. But maybe by Comic-Con, if we might have some news either way, you think? Like one way or the other? Like, is that what you're trying to get at?
I mean, it does make me wonder, like, what's the big what's the milestone that they could do it at? Comic-Con seems to make the most sense, right? It's the biggest one coming up.
I would say at this moment in time, I don't think there's a recast in play, but, don't count anything out going forward, I guess.
Yeah, it's almost like, you might hear a decision kind of like out there, like on Deadline or The Hollywood Reporter or something like that, but we probably won't visually get some sort of like confirmation about it for a while, right? They don't really need to make the decision at the moment.
There's nothing in production that would involve him, so
so they got lucky, at least in that regard.
Yeah, so I still think he'll maintain. I think he'll maintain character based on, again, it's all pure speculation at this point, but I think they'll try to maintain as long as we hear nothing else kind of, I guess, snowball out of this at the end of it. But at the same time, there's some other stuff. We'll talk about the external factors here in a minute. But like, the reporter was like, San Diego Comic-Con will be, a lot more going forward, and I would not be surprised, as we have put down on this theoretical calendar that I made once, that all these shows will get shifted, all the movies will get shifted, and Phase 6 will get expanded quite a bit. Right? We had a lot of movie release dates in there that weren't unveiled. I think those might get unveiled as well. So we'll keep you guys posted as always. However, on the flip side of things, there are some external factors. The Writers Guild Association is now currently enacting a writer's strike across Hollywood and Chicago and New York and everywhere that the Writers Guild has members, right? And there are people out there. This is, if you're a Writers Guild Association and you're taking part in the strike, this is really, I would say, shut down a lot of weekly shows, right, or daily shows. Was it the time show, stuff like that?
Yeah, when there's a writer strike, the first things to be affected production-wise are kind of like your daily, nightly shows, your nighttime shows, your
Saturday Night Live is one of them. That's a weekly.
Things like that are live and have a writer's room, right? So those are the first affected, and then you go into things that are in production, right? Things where writing is happening.
Yes.
And also on social media, you've had a lot of writers and showrunners kind of sharing the fact that writing doesn't necessarily stop when all of the scripts are written and approved and you go to production. There is still a lot of writing that happens when you're on set putting the show together. So there's a lot of things that have been halted because you're not going to get the same quality out of it. The Duffer Brothers, the creators of Stranger Things, just announced that they are halting production on the final season of Stranger Things because they are not allowed to write on set because that would be going against the WGA, and they are in full support of the picket of the strike. So they are just doing what they see best, which is delaying the show, which is a great power move, right? There's rumors out there that Netflix could possibly be one of the bigger holdouts when it comes to the strike because they've been lucky as hell riding this wave of quote unquote new media where they've been really dodging a lot of fees in order to make the streaming content.
They are probably, I would say, the biggest target of this as well, like one of the bigger targets, right? Because the writer's strike comes down to negotiating for writers to be paid for things on streaming, because when these contracts were written, streaming wasn't a thing. It didn't exist. So they've been skirting a lot of royalties and things to the writers who get paid for these things to live on in perpetuity on streaming, and that's what they're fighting for.
there's a great Hollywood journalist out there by the name of Matt Bellany that has an awesome show called The Town. And recently he had an episode where he brought on Adam Conover, who's just a great educational explainer, right? You might know him from the show Adam Ruins Everything. And he's also one of the members of the bargaining group that are leading up the strike. And he had Adam on the show and just does a great job of communicating at what the writers are fighting for. Yeah. Because just systematically over the years, ever since the last writer's strike, studios have just found every nook and cranny and loophole to just cut costs on the writing side of things, when it just feels like you should be cutting executive bonuses and CEO pay before you start cutting the pay of the people that actually create the shows that you love, right? You know, without the Duffer Brothers, there literally is no Stranger Things, right? No AI is gonna whip up Stranger Things. I mean, it might be able to make something similar to it now because there's so much source material out there, but before Stranger Things was written, there was nothing out there quite like it, right? So you still need the originality and the creativity out there in Hollywood, and you got to pay a premium for it because it is hard to do. Mm-hmm. So a long-winded way of saying I don't want to hear anyone complaining about their shows being delayed or their movies not coming out because they feel like maybe writers are being like greedy. Like David Zaslav makes like $250 million for a salary. $250 million salary. One man. So I don't want to hear people complain.
Well, it's also, you know, the more you pay your writers and the more you invest in this, you know, from the ground up, you're going to have quality at the end of the day, right? That's what it comes down to. The, you know, the writers, I believe the last time they struck was like mid 2000s.
2007, I think, I was 15 years ago, whatever year that is.
Because the show Heroes was, written hastily, like the week before the whole show, or one of the scenes was written like the week before the strike so they could get it into production, and that's when the show really went down the shitter, if you will. And then also the second Transformers movie, Dark of the Moon, was written the week before the strike so they could get it into production. And obviously the first Transformers movie still, I think, holds up, right? But the decline was when they didn't actually have writers doing it. Like they really sucked.
You bring up a good point. Don't look at it as something that's like hurting something that you love right now. Look at it as like, oh, here's an example of what Hollywood looks like if there's no writers out there, right? If there's just like scabs or AI, like you're not going to get anything good of quality. So please do your best out there online to support the writers. You know, you might not physically be here in Hollywood to, you know, drive by and give them a honk of support as they're picketing outside of a studio. But if you happen to come across like a tweet or an Instagram or post or something, like just throw them a little bit of support, because they are out there. My wife is one of them, out there, boots to the ground, walking the picket line. So yes, this podcast will be an eternal fountain of support for them. For sure.
And this is how, you know, whether it's writers, producers, directors, whatever it is, you know, this is how we get better things and better product for everybody at the end of the day. Like, you know, you support them, whether it's the writers, the everything, you know, in a film has this so they don't get exploited and we get good quality going forward. So this is absolutely fantastic. Blade is currently, most of these are like, again, live shows are first, pre-production is second, and in production is third, right? In terms of like how this affects things. So Blade is in pre-production. We just announced a new director or writer last week, right, from True Detective, and now it's completely paused. Like they are not doing anything on Blade because they're in the writing process for.
I wasn't really too shocked to see this, right? Like I wouldn't be surprised to see this headline without a writer's strike. This movie has just been delayed and delayed and delayed, apropos of just many creative differences. So I was like, okay, maybe it's a good. This one needs as long as it could possibly get, because it feels like they got to get their ducks in a row, and maybe this will give them a little extra time.
Yeah. So a lot of you know, most writers, 90-something% of them are out there. Even you know, you can belong to multiple guilds in Hollywood, in New York and stuff. So absolutely, you know, they're in pre-production, so this is canceled. Now the other one in production, Wonder Man, just a few weeks in, is also paused production. Now this is what you mentioned earlier. There are writers on set changing things and adapting things as things come to life, right? Like you may write a script and think it's the most perfect thing ever, but a lot of those changes or pickups come on the set when you have the actors there to film it, so you don't have to do reshoots, or you feel something doesn't work. So the Wonder Man has writers on set, and this production entirely has been paused because those writers were on set while they were working on this as well. So this is just, two things that we all enjoy that are currently, are looking forward to, that are paused, that are under the Marvel/Disney umbrella. And there are more things, but these affect, our news cycle most specifically. Now, moving forward, big companies who have gone through these before and know what to do, such as Marvel and Disney. Captain America: New World Order still plans on hitting its production schedule later this summer. If the strike is still on, they may not, and they may not have writers on set. But because this was already written and already planned, and they're just waiting on production, they're still hoping that the strike will get resolved, and the negotiations will work for everybody, and this will still hit production at the end of or in the summer.
It's hard to know how long a strike like this could last for, because they are bargaining for different things than the last time they had a strike. But just for context, the last strike went 100 days, which is basically the length of the summer, right? So there are things that could be hitting production here early fall into summer, and they might not necessarily have to change their schedules, because hopefully everything should be solved and resolved by then. If the studios get their act together, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a good chance there's a lot of stuff still happening on many slates out there that'll be uninterrupted.
Yeah, exactly. So Captain America: New World Order, obviously, I think it's been in production, right? Like, we've seen Harrison Ford on set and some other stuff. They filmed stuff, so it's still working on its production. There are just no writers on set as well. So Deadpool 3 is the other one, right? This is a movie everyone's excited for. Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman. It is still planned on track for production this fall, if everything kind of goes through. So again, hopefully it's not a long strike and everyone can get what they want and we can resume services as usual.
And Deadpool 3 is kind of interesting in a way, because, a production of a film, can take a couple years sometimes, right? And the actual filming of it is just a very short amount of time, as opposed to like pre-production and post-production, right? And as we know, Ryan Reynolds can really just get into the ADR booth, right, and post-production and just like really change the lines as long as he's underneath a mask, right? So there's a chance that post-production for that film could come well after a strike is over, right? And then you could still go in there and like retool a lot of different things. So Deadpool might be a little lucky in that aspect, where the star of the film, Ryan Reynolds, is kind of also a very much a creative partner in it too. So he technically is not allowed to rewrite anything or kind of change the direction of the story, but he is an actor with free agency. So if he's just on set and wants to take another take and do and just ad lib or do something they are allowed to do that. So there are still ways that you can bob and weave through it without breaking any rules.
And they're not trying to break rules. There's just
exactly,
you want to keep if a production's paused, nobody's getting paid. So you want to try to keep as much as you can, so everybody else whose work relies on this is getting paid and they're getting work. So
the last thing you want to be out here in this town is a scab. All of Hollywood from top to bottom runs on some sort of guild or some sort of union, right? So you want to make sure you stay on the right side of these guilds and unions, and also just your coworkers that are in them as well. So even you're not going to see a lot of a division across these lines.
And even if you aren't a union member, you still get the basic union rights as an employee on a production, right? So you're still getting the benefits of what the union's doing, even if you're not a union member yet. So there is benefits for everyone working on this, not just union members at the end of the day.
You're really raising the tide for everybody else at all. I used to work a few years ago in an office space that was unionized, and the unionization rose the benefits for everybody in that office, even if they weren't part of the union. So you're always going to hear positive stories from us over here when it comes to collective bargaining. So
absolutely.
Hopefully just everything wraps up, everyone gets what they want, and we can just get Hollywood back moving.
Right. Just it starts at the top. Cut your money there, put it down at the bottom, and build your house from the bottom up, and you'll have a solid foundation with great stuff to come. So that's how we feel and believe in over here. So absolutely. So let's shift to some stuff and some other things that are not like, hey, let's get depressed here. Fantastic Four. This is a little juicy one here. I guess a very trusted scooper /leaker/source has said that Adam Driver is a done deal and has signed on to play Mr. Fantastic / Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, well, you might as well throw the other one in here as well when you talk about them as a duo.
So the other thing is, obviously, you have Fantastic Four. You have the Invisible Woman, Sue Storm, and Margot Robbie is rumored to be the frontrunner / in negotiations for that role as well.
Yeah, I mean, two Hollywood heavy hitters, right? You could, I mean, especially after Barbie comes out this summer, you got Adam Driver off of. He's
Star Wars. Just say Star Wars, yeah.
But he's been in other things.
65,
as well, right?
the movie that nobody watched.
he was in
it's not his
Netflix,
fault.
Marriage Story or something like that.
It's not his fault. It's okay, but yeah.
Yeah, but he's a tour de force for sure. I've always been kind of hoping they would take Mr. Fantastic in the Ultimates direction, where he ultimately becomes like the bad guy.
Yeah,
because it's just such a cool, like, unexpected outcome, right, for one of an iconic hero that you've seen in the legacy of Marvel for so many years. So I could see Adam Driver doing that for sure. We're familiar with him being a bad guy, but I could see him being kind of like analytical, super sciencey into it as well. Margot Robbie, another awesome, powerful actor who I guess would be defecting from DC in a way. I don't know exactly.
I don't think she was treated fairly before James Gunn either. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think these are pretty big powerhouses. I'm also still okay with the idea that all of the Fantastic Four are relatively unknowns. I would be okay with that, of them kind of like building up a kind of like a junior squad and just kind of honing them over a couple years and a couple films, kind of really building out the characters from their personalities. But I suppose this is the more star-studded route to go for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I am... If Adam Driver's there, it's fine. I don't love this. I'm not in love with this choice, but like at the same time, like I don't have a better option to offer up to anybody here other than, hey, do you want John Krasinski and Emily Blunt like everybody has wanted for the past 10 years? Sure, but like, is that going to happen? No. So I don't really have a better option. I don't think I love Margot Robbie as Invisible Woman simply because she's been Harley Quinn for so long, right? As in my head. And that's not saying she can't do the role and she can't be. She's an actress and can do great things. I'm just not in love with the choice, but at the end of the day I think it's fine, right? Like,
I would say no red flags with the casting, but maybe not as inspired as maybe some people would hope. I guess we still have to see the rest of the cast round out. I think I've seen like random Instagram posts with like rumors with big sprinkles
we
of
talked
salt
about
that there's like
Mila Kunis is like the thing last week, and but she said like, I'm not in the movie but I know who is. I'm like,
and then there's like a Johnny Storm that's being floated around with an actor I'm not super familiar with, so maybe we'll get a little bit of both of like knowns and unknowns. But I mean, if these rumors are as, especially the Adam Driver one, are as cemented as you think, right, Chris? It seems like Comic-Con is a great place to debut the cast for the Fantastic Four, right?
Yeah, and if they don't, because Marvel's weird, will sometimes just do a random announcement in the middle of the week, right? Like, hey, we don't have a movie till November. What are we going to do? I could see them also pulling it out in the middle of the week, like maybe announcing one or two, but not all the whole cast, right, kind of thing. So, this like I said, these two things are fine. These two actors, actress is fine. I'm not rioting against it, but just. Yes, we'll have to see them. I want to see what they look in action. I trust Marvel to get really good, performances out of their actors. Looking at Sarah Halley Finn, the name we see the casting director on every Marvel movie, saw before Guardians. I'm like, she did a really good job with Guardians, so can't really argue here as well. The other part of this Fantastic Four thing is that the Silver Surfer will not be in the movie, Mike, but another Galactus Herald will be. The axe-wielding Terrax, who is one of the original Guardians, or not Guardians, Galactus Heralds, if you will. I think this is great because then you can kill him off and no one will care. If you put Silver Surfer in there, you can't really kill him off and nobody will die. So I'm like, also, you need to have a villain you can waste in here.
Yeah, well, also we have that rumored report of that Silver Surfer special presentation that could be hitting Disney Plus anytime now, it feels like. But who knows? So maybe that's one way that they kind of build the character up on the side. Maybe it comes in, I don't know, Fantastic Four 2 or whatever the MCU looks like after these incursion events happen.
They could do an Annihilation. I would not be surprised if the Silver Surfer meets up with some of the Guardians of the Galaxy later, right, in a different movie kind of thing, like we talked about. If they're not done and they bring him back, they could meet this character because he was part of the Annihilation series. That was great. But Terrax, an axe wielding villain who is just big and kind of looks like Darkseid a little bit when you Google him. So it's fine. You can have a kind of a CGI villain as the villain here that we've never seen before. That's okay with me. And then also, this movie is still on track with the writers, the WA strike going on. My guess is they're not writing the script, or the script is already done, and they're just working on casting and other pre-production functions going forward.
Yeah, visual design, visual development, stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Costume fittings, Mike. Gotta do costume fittings. They're very important. So Fantastic Four, I fully expect to have a casting announcement and probably a new release date, if I'm going to be honest, at San Diego Comic-Con when we get there. Something that we've not really heard a lot or seen anything of is X-Men 97, right? The animated series continuation that's coming to Disney Plus. But the showrunner Bo DeMeo has come out and said that Cyclops and Storm are to be the focus X-Men characters in this, like the lead characters, if you will.
All right.
That lines up with how the animated show ended. Professor X went off to space to be healed, and Cyclops and Storm and Wolverine were left back behind. So obviously we'll get some Wolverine. Everybody loves the animated Wolverine, but Cyclops and Storm sound like people who'd run the Institute, if you will. So not really too surprising there. Moving on, Spider-Man 4 got a little bit of interesting news today, Mike, or this week, and that is it's now a rumored August 2025 release date, which I did not think would be waiting that long for another Spider-Man movie.
Also, August, right?
Yeah.
Very end of the summer. I feel like usually that's the month almost like reserved for like Mission Impossible movies. Like historically, I feel like I've seen Spider-Man in like the July slot or like the May slot, right? Those big premiere months.
So for 2025, the May slot is Avengers Kang Dynasty, and the July slot is Superman Legacy. So August makes sense, maybe a June, if you will. But like the only other movie I can think of that came out in August that did successful was the first Guardians movie. Came out in August. But it's a very risky position. However, Spider-Man is like a proven property, right? Is this something like, hey, Sony's like, well, we'll release it whenever, and it's Spider-Man, it'll make our money back no matter what we do.
Could be.
That year is also the other movie I have on there is Fantastic Four and Batman 2, the Batman 2. So 2025 is looking to have some really, really deep cuts there. That's like in a good way, like kind of thing. So maybe we'll get more information at San Diego Comic-Con. Sony usually brings a panel. Sony's never brought a panel to San Diego, have they?
I don't know.
I don't think they ever have. So Marvel won't announce it. So I'd be interested to see when they do announce this. So, interesting. On the flip side, Sony is trying to really, hit Spider-Man as much as they can here with Across the Spider-Verse being 2 hours and 20 minutes long, Mike. This makes it the longest animated feature to ever release in Hollywood.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, that's a long animated movie. That's a long movie overall. And boy, does it make me think that they're doing Across the Spider-Verse, and what's the other one? Through the Spider-Verse? Is that? No, Beyond the Spider-Verse. At the same time, like they're making these like a big like 4-5 hour movie at the same time, and they're just cutting it up down the middle.
I'm not saying the movie necessarily needs to be 90 minutes long, but now I'm worried about sharing the movie theater with little kids. Like they could barely withstand the 90 minutes of Mario before they started losing it. So crossing my fingers for a good audience when I finally go to see this one.
Yeah, the trailers make it look way more, again, adult, right? I mean, it's animated. You can't tell parents, oh, don't take your kids to the animated movie. But like it looks to be a little scarier with like Spider-Man 2099 being very aggressive a little bit. But it still looks fun. But I agree, like 2 hours and 20 minutes for this might be the downfall of this movie, Mike. The complaint against this is right. The other one's like it's over an hour and a half. It's like still like under 2, but like you got to make sure you're not just telling a long story to tell a long story at the end of the day. So I'm excited. Again, I'm excited. We looked this up. I have it wrong. I have to update it on our upcoming releases tab, but this is June 2nd. June 1st, June 2nd coming out. So we are within a month of watching this movie finally. And I'm very, very excited to kind of to get there.
There's a chance you're listening to this podcast and tickets could all of a sudden be on sale. So we're going to keep an eye on that.
Showtimes are up. We did just confirm that right before we recorded. So, be prepared to get your tickets and, maybe look for the no kids screenings. Maybe they'll come out with those eventually. No kids allowed, but we'll cross our fingers. Shifting gears into some Star Wars news, because I believe Tony Gilroy was out talking Star Wars this week, and that the final 3 episodes of Andor will focus, or the final episodes, the final episodes will focus on the 3 days before Rogue One, Mike. So really button it up against that movie there.
Yes, I mean, if anything, it could literally butt up almost scene to scene, right? Because we've seen them do that at the end of Rogue One and how it keys right into A New Hope, right? So I think this could be a fun thing of plan your watching accordingly, and then when that series finale finishes, go right into Rogue One. Yeah. So I know Disney Plus is going to be recommending that movie right away, so that could be really cool.
This is great because I hate Cassian Andor's introduction in Rogue One. Like, he just shoots that dude in a hallway, like out of nowhere, and you're like, who the hell is this guy? What's he doing? Like, he's out here killing people. He's very, he's a spy. He's very suspect. But like, if they can get that down and like show like who he is and what he is up to, that'll be perfect. I think that'll really redeem the opening of Rogue One for me, right? As in that character's introduction. So I'm looking forward to this. Hopefully they deliver. I don't have any inclination on why they wouldn't deliver. So looking forward to that. All right, let's get into the trailer park. We got 3 trailers to talk with you guys here a little bit. One is Dune Part 2. We got to see Dune, was it 2021? October 2021, I think, at the end. Released
pandemic.
Yeah.
Pandemic bound.
I believe that was the year HBO's like, we're releasing all our movies on HBO Max and theaters simultaneously. So we were able to watch Dune on HBO Max, and Part 2 was not confirmed at that time, but the first movie is literally half of the book. So the Part 2 is the second half of the book, which there is a little bit of a time jump, and not much, not enough to like age up the characters, but enough to show something past. So we get this first trailer, and the biggest part of all these Dune movies, and all these Dune, the only thing I've ever known about Dune was the sandworms before I ever saw the movie.
That's the iconic bit, right?
Right, and in this trailer, you get to see Paul Atreides ride a sandworm across the desert, Mike. And you've not even seen the first movie yet. You've not even seen Dune Part 1. So
no, I mean, when everybody tells you it the first one just feels like an unfinished, very much a Part 1, I was like, well, I might as well just wait. So that's still my plan. I'm watching the trailer right now, Chris, just on mute, so I don't get too much information that I don't need.
There's a lot of not information for you, so you're gonna be fine.
Exactly. So that's gonna be my plan. When this one drops, I'll just watch them back to back.
Yeah, there's a lot of new characters added to this. We get Florence Pugh, right? The Yelena Belova from Marvel. We get Austin Butler, who is Elvis. He's playing the character Sting played in the original movie. And so like they're really adding a lot more actors, a lot more of this. Like they're building scenes that were not in the movies for sure, or in the books for sure. So I'm excited to kind of see this. But Denny, he did a great job with the first one. Whether I am disappointed it ends at a halfway point in the book, but it is still a great movie, and I'm very excited to watch the Part 2. And I hate the phrase only in theaters, but this is a movie I really would like to see in theaters based on the first one. So absolutely excited to visit the theaters later this year to see Dune Part 2 when it hits theaters. So you can check out that trailer in the show notes. Moving on, we talked about this last week at CinemaCon, but they've officially released a trailer for Gran Turismo, the movie based on a true story.
But also based on a video game.
Also based on a video game, yeah. So we did look this up. There's a guy in England who was able to play a Nissan/Sony sponsored video game tournament to get a spot to race a real car. That is what this is. The guy plays the games. He goes and drives a real car. Like he passes the class. It's got what's his name? David Harbour and Orlando Bloom. And it's the main leads and then some actors underneath. looks like a dramatic racing movie, Mike. It didn't really sell me. I know you're sold on the premise, but like watching this, I'm like, this looks boring.
The premise is, honestly, probably the most interesting tidbit in this whole thing is what about this movie compelled Neil Blomkamp so much to get back into Hollywood, right? Yeah. He's been so jaded with the whole industry and process. Like, what about this is bringing him back? Does he just need like a big payday? Does he need a big paycheck to keep making his Oats short films?
He's like, I'll do it for a PlayStation 5 and an early copy of Gran Turismo 7.
Little did he know you can just find those in a Target now, right?
Yeah.
So I'm interested in seeing another Neil Blomkamp movie, so maybe that's what ultimately gets me to watch this. I don't know. Mm-hmm.
What would be great is that they release this movie in PlayStation VR, Mike, for PSVR 2. You get to watch the whole movie in VR. I don't think they will, but I'm interested to see again some of the interesting mechanics of making this movie. They use some remote cameras that they built remote cameras so they're on the cars and he can control them remotely while they're driving around, right? Which is really, really interesting. So I'm excited to watch that. But overall, the story's not really dragging me in. To be honest, I don't like racing movies. I don't like car movies. So I'm like, it's not for me. And I know it's not for me, but we'll cross that bridge when it comes out. You guys can check out the trailer below. This came out like 2 weeks ago, and I keep dropping it off of here, and I'm forgetting about to put us on here. But I'm going to tell you guys about the biggest letdown of a teaser trailer I've ever seen in my life. Ever. And that is for Twisted Metal. Mm-hmm. This is a Peacock series based on the video games that we grew up with on PlayStation, Mike. And I love them. They are essentially the early battle royales, right? You have a car and you have like a car character and a bunch of other car characters with special abilities, and you drive around picking up weapons and kill everybody until you're the last car remaining, right? Battle royale for cars is what it is. This trailer takes Anthony Mackie in like a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing where he plays Lynn's what is it? Steal My Sunshine. Well, he's in a car with guns on it front, but he's like loading his own shotgun too while he's driving across America. I don't know what this is, and I hate it so much, Mike. I just can't put it to words how it rubs me wrong in so many ways.
Like maybe a full trailer will engage us a little bit more, but from this teaser trailer, it just looks so cheap.
Yeah.
Right. This looks so like bottom barrel of just like barely throw any money at it. Get a couple cars out of a warehouse, slap some like fake looking guns on the side of it. You know, they try to hype you up a little bit at the very end by giving you like a little
Sweet
taste
Tooth.
of like Sweet Tooth, which is probably the most iconic character from the Twisted Metal franchise. But yeah this just looks cheap and uninspired.
100%. This is not footage from the show, right? Because it's all Anthony Mackie's looking at the camera, like doing this, like you know, he's rocking out in his car. Like 100% guaranteed, none of this is going to be in the actual show. But like, if you're getting this look, someone hype, like I don't know who. The only character I can actually pull out of the game is Sweet Tooth, right? And then Rob Zombie did all the music for most of the games. So I'm like, why are you not giving me Rob Zombie music and Sweet Tooth and then a couple cars exploding each other? Like, that's really all I needed, like, to get me hyped. And I'm like, this is awful.
This should be a movie directed by Rob Zombie, right? This is the type of like video game franchise where you kind of just need to go like just unchain it, go just off the rails because it does. There's no logical scenario you could really make this work where like, oh, everybody fight to the death, you know, like Hunger Games style.
Well, right. This looks like, again, we're going to talk about this in a second, Mortal Kombat, but it didn't have any fucking Mortal Kombat in it. It was like, we're going to kill everybody before we have the Mortal Kombat. And I'm like, that's awful, and I hate your movie for it. This show looks like Twisted Metal without the Twisted Metal combat. Like, he's just trying to survive. Like, how many characters are you going to throw out and they're just going to get wiped out in, like, one episode, right?
I think the safest thing to say, Chris, is we are not teased.
I'm not teased. My metal is twisted, Mike. My metal is so twisted at this, and not in a good way. But we'll keep you guys posted as more comes out. Lastly, this is good news for the actual Mortal Kombat sequel, Mike. I think Mortal Kombat 2, I think it went straight to streaming. I don't know if it went to theaters. But the Mortal Kombat movie, the reboot, it was fine. Had some good action scenes, you know, some awesome things. It just didn't have actually any Mortal Kombat, which sucked. Mortal Kombat 2 is looking to cast Carl Urban to play Johnny Cage in the sequel. And I think that sounds awesome. I think he's an infectious actor who knows how to handle blood and guts on scenes pretty well after doing The Boys for so many years.
Yeah, we love Carl Urban. I feel like that's that's enough to get me to tune in. This was one of those like HBO Max films, right, that we got to watch streaming and in the comfort of our own homes during the pandemic. It doesn't seem like we're going to get that luxury again with the sequel. I can't imagine I buy a ticket to go see the second one.
This is a Saturday afternoon matinee. This is like I'm going to pay like a cheap ticket and like just go in without any like expectations and see what I get out of it, right?
Yeah, this is Chris texting me that says, "Oh, I found a copy and I put it up on my Plex server." Type of deal. Yeah. I don't know if I go.
So that's the problem with this is I call it the Carl Urban curse. Like he was in Dredd, right? Great movie, did not make any money. Like anything he's in movie wise is just not. Doesn't like other than Lord of the Rings, but he wasn't the main character. But anything he's like a main character and just doesn't get the hype it deserves, right? Or the money to do more. So I feel like they're going to do this, right? Everyone's going to be like, the first one left a bad taste in my mouth. I don't want to go watch this. Unless they, like, go balls to the wall Mortal Kombat on us, right? Like, actual tournament style.
They're going to have to.
They're going to have to.
That's the only thing they have left to play.
Yeah, so if they can do that, do it. The other thing I think would be interesting if they do a video game tie-in with this. Like, release the next Mortal Kombat when this movie comes out. And, like, you can buy skins of or it comes with skins of the characters from the movie. So, it'd be interesting. So we'll see, but I'm excited. Carl Urban, if he gets to play, I don't see him playing Johnny Cage, but I guess he's got that smart assiness from the boys that he can carry over to that. So we'll keep you guys posted as more of this comes out. All right, we got an episode under the belt, Mike. We got two episodes. We got a review of Guardians you guys can listen to. We got this one, but if people want to know what you're up to, what you're doing, where can they find you at, my friend?
Oh, they can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and you can read my webcomics at liferewardsrisk.com. Chris, if people want to catch you, where can they find you?
Find me on Instagram, Valdan87, or add me on any video game system you want. Valdan87. We'll play something. We'll figure it out. If people want to know more about the show, listen to our Guardians spoiler-free first half, spoiler-filled second half review episode, or any other show. Come back and listen as we get more of these into the summer. Where can they find all these goodies at?
Yes, hop into your virtual Gran Turismo car and drive on over to our headquarters, which is superheroslate.com. That is the best place to find all the avenues we host our show and to get our awesome show notes. So if you want to see all the trailers that we talked about this week, we got them over there in our show notes. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to find podcasts like ours. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. Let us know what you're excited about this summer. Did you go see Guardians? Are you excited for Gran Turismo? What do you think about Twisted Metal teaser? Do you hate it? Much like us. But if you want to be a super fan of the show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we will be here every week, folks.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.